Hello again, welcome back to Cards on the Table. We're at the very famous Belfry Hotel in Birmingham with a very famous manager. It's a first, I'm delighted to say, for You Are the Ref. I'm delighted to welcome a former England manager, Graham Taylor. And Graham, welcome.
Thank you.
For all the hassles of the job, still carries a lot of prestige, and I'd guess that you'd rather have had it than not.
Yes, I suppose you're right there, but I just wish it had come 20 years later to me. I was 44 when I was offered the England manager's job. Very hard to refuse, isn't it? Very hard to turn down. And if I had turned it down, I doubt whether I would have been offered it again. But it came at sort of almost like the peak of my managerial career, where we'd gone in with to Aston Villa. I'd moved from Watford. Watford had this glorious rise up the leagues, and then Aston Villa were chasing Liverpool, as all clubs did in those days. And the England job came across for me. I took it. It didn't go well for me. I mean, initially, getting into the European Championships in Sweden, fine, but we didn't do all that well in there. And of course, then we didn't qualify for the World Cup, and that was a hard, believe me. And I say to people, I'll say it now, there will only be me that go to my grave with that on me, because it's something that it's very, very hard to almost accept, you know, that this actually happened. And I found it a very difficult time, because obviously everybody's upset, nobody's happy with you. The media in particular play games with you, as they did, and what have you. And I found it a very difficult period of my life. The thing that I'm proud about myself is I resurrected my club career in this country. I couldn't see why I had to leave the country. If I'd been deemed good enough to become the England manager and it hadn't gone well for me, why should I then not be able to have another club go back into club management? And if you look at the managers before me, none of them had gone back into club management with any success whatsoever, and I found that very strange. So if there's anything I'm proud, I stuck at it because it was difficult, and I came back in. I went to Wolverhampton Wanderers, who were, you know, very good to appoint me, because basically there was not a lot of clubs really queuing up to do that. So it was a difficult period of my life, but I learned a lot about it.
Others have gone abroad. Steve McLaren, I think, felt he had to go abroad and is back in this country. But you, again, were a successful club manager. What you went through, obviously, was exceptionally hurtful.
It was.
And the way that you were lampooned and ridiculed, but you've not been the first in that respect, or the last, and there'll be others in the future. It's somehow...
Well, it's certainly... The thing is, there is actually so much difference between being a club manager and an international manager. At club level, 50, 60 games a season. At international level, 10. At club level, your own staff round about you. When I took over from Bobby, there was no staff. It took me about 2 to 3 months to convince the Football Association, could I take Laurie McMenemy as my assistant, an experienced man himself? So there was none of that. When I went to the FA, I had a secretary who worked 2 floors above me and reported to somebody else before she did to me. At club level, you have your own secretary in terms of getting all of the media, you know, the work and the letters done. It's totally different in terms of, as I say, working, and you have to get used to it. And it might, you know, suit people, but at club level, you're in a tracksuit every day if you want to be. You've got your own staff round about you, you've got your own players round about you. At international level, you're only in a tracksuit when you're playing an international game. And then also, you don't have your staff round about you, really. Even though Laurie came in, he lived down in Southampton and what have you. So there's a lot of major differences, and it took some getting used to.
And a defeat stings for weeks and months.
Forever.
Whereas a club defeat lasts a few days and
you're playing again. And you're playing again. And one must always remember this, and I learnt very much as an international manager. At club level, and you don't play well, and what have you, your supporters will let you know. And they'll be there again the next week, the following week, but they'll let you know. But they're just the club supporters. At international level, it belongs to the whole country. So the whole country let you know.
I mean, you've survived the
Some
experience.
of the letters I received during that period of time.
Have you kept any?
I know. I thought the best thing was don't keep.
But look, you've come through it with a smile on your face.
Yeah. Well, you have to do, don't you? I mean, as I said earlier, without wishing to be boastful, the little bit of pride I have is that I fought it. I fought my way back. You know, and it's like everything else. What I found, if you get knocked down and you lay flat on your face and don't move, nobody helps you. If you get knocked down, you're flat on your face, but you're trying to get up. It's amazing how many people will help you. And that was like very similar to coming back into top class club management in this country.
We like to build people up and knock them down. And having knocked them down, we like to pick them up again.
Yeah.
Which is kind of happened to you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But you can associate, well, primarily on this side, we talk about referees, but it's also important to put them in the context of the game of football and the suffering that other people have. And maybe you can associate some of what you've been through and the ordeals you've been through with kind of the traumas that the criticism the referees have.
Well,
almost routinely.
I might surprise or disappoint you, but I'm a referee's man. See, as a young boy, I was brought by my father, who was a local journalist for the Scunthorpe
Who I've met, had the pleasure of meeting.
And followed Scunthorpe United. And his young 6 or 7 year old son at that time was taken into the press box and put in alongside very famous journalists when Scunthorpe were doing really well and what have you. And I was given a stopwatch. And then when a goal was scored, my job was to click the stopwatch. And my dad would shout, "What time do you make that, Graham?" 23 minutes, 15 seconds, Dad. And then the Scunthorpe Star, which was a weekly paper, my father's Scunthorpe Telegraph, which was a nightly paper, the sports reporter for the Scunthorpe Star would slide over the folder because he was in the other part of the press box. "What time do you make that, Tom?" He said, "Well, Dad, 23 minutes, 20 odd seconds.
Yeah.
And then the sports paper would come out at night time, as they did very early, and they would have a list of the goal scorers. And there was, let's say, Jack Haig, who played for Scunthorpe United, one of my heroes, and he say had scored a goal. There it was, 23 minutes, 27 seconds in the paper. And here was I, 6 or 7 year old boy, thinking I was controlling all the media. And it was fantastic in that respect. So, you know, the media has been part of my life, all my life.
From both sides?
From both sides, yeah.
And this was Tom, your father?
Yeah, they used to have the pseudonym the Poacher, Lincolnshire Poacher, but of course they stopped all that. And I think quite rightly so, because if you're going to write something that's critical, well, get your name on it, you know, don't have a pseudonym.
That brings us to the modern era when everybody's right, you know, any old Tom, Dick and Harry can write under a pseudonym and does.
Yeah.
And it's a very good point you make. But Tom Taylor, respected and revered journalist in that part of the world, and you say you've seen it from both sides, but also that you're a referee's man. Is that has that continued to be the case?
Yeah, definitely.
From your father's example and upbringing? And
yes and no, but I think even more so now, and I have to say this, if the referees have any problem at all, it's because of all the television cameras that are there. And obviously they weren't there in my early days, but you get the television cameras that are there and they see everything, you know, from the views that they see it. They never show you it from the referee's view. And they can't really, unless you're going to do it. Are we going to get to the day where the referee has a little camera on top of his head? God, I hope not. But, you know, you want to say, well, why not? Because then we'll be able to see it from the referee's view. See, a lot of the times, and this is why I become a referee's man, on the television, the incident will be shown from the television camera's point of view. Well, that's unfair on the referee. He's given the decision from what he's seen from his point of view. And if we can't see his point of view, you know, I think it's just hard on them. And I honestly do believe that there is a lot of pressure on referees. And so the days where I certainly went through, where you could have a laugh with them, and you could have a laugh with the linesmen, as they would call them, as opposed to, you know, assistant referees. It doesn't bother me what they're actually called. But you could have a laugh with a few, and out on the pitch you could have a smile and a laugh with. And it seems to me that that's not quite there now. Do you know what I mean? that seems to have faded.
Why is that?
away.
Is that because of the way they're coached, trained, or the way that they've become themselves? Maybe a little bit more defensive mentality because of the amount of criticism they're getting.
It's a combination of everything you've just said, I'd say. I wouldn't sort of just say that for a reason, but we could go through everything. I think it is first of all, the referee doesn't want to make a mistake. Neither does a player when he makes a mistake. He doesn't want to make them. None of us want to make the mistakes. But being human beings, we will make mistakes. It's part of life and it's part of the game. I mean, I could say many things, and I've had good referees, bad referees, or let's put it this way, I've had good referees all the time, but some have had bad days. You see, you can have a couple of incidents that the referee gets wrong, he becomes a bad referee. No, he just got a couple of things wrong on that. He had a bad day. He's a human being, so he can have a bad day.
But of course, you have a bad day as a manager because he's had a bad day.
Well, yeah, you can have.
So you can lose a game because he's had a bad
day. I'll tell you an incident when I was the international manager, the Holland game.
Indeed, I was going to come to that.
I forget, but he never refereed. Whoever the referee's name was, I forget it now, but he never refereed a top international game again because FIFA were going on about the incident that if you prevent a goal-scoring opportunity, you should be sent off. It should be a red card. And in the game away to Holland, David Platt was through, and the Southampton manager, Mr. Koeman, pulled him down. Koeman pulled him down, and it was actually just outside the penalty box, but he should have been sent off. And where I really got annoyed about it was because we had the free kick, we didn't score from the free kick. At the other end, there was another free kick where Paul Ince was adjudged to have fouled, and then the free kick was taken by Koeman, and Ince was judged to have encroached, and the referee booked him. He hadn't done the Dutch players, but he booked him. And so it was the goal that Koeman scored was his second free kick. It wasn't from the original one. Now that referee's name hung in my mind for many months, but I've got over it, and I can't even remember.
Sounds
his name.
like he didn't.
But although what I do remember, if I can be right, that he didn't referee a first-class, top-class international game again. So FIFA sort of treated him in that manner.
Aside from those details, you're particularly remembered for that game because of the documentary, the TV documentary, the fly on the wall, the cameras, and an exchange that you had, I think, during that game with the linesman as well. I mean, when you look back and bearing in mind your sympathetic nature towards officials, do you regret any of that heat of the moment? I think you accused, you said to the linesman, the referee's costing me my job here, or could be. Or...
The interesting thing, you see, and this is where I got that wrong, I just assumed, and it was a silly assumption when you look back at it to make, that these kind of comments that you made, everybody knew. I mean, to say you've cost me my job, goodness knows how many times I heard that from other managers when I was sort of, being a manager. But what I hadn't taken on board, it would be the first time that viewers or spectators would hear or see a manager saying it, you see, and so it wasn't a question. I mean, did I want to do the documentary? I turned a documentary down when I first became the England manager. People had done. I turned that down. I turned another documentary down, and then what I did when an approach was made a third time by certain people, I thought, no, I'd been in the job, I'd say long enough, but I just wanted the people. I know that I came out of it however people wanted to judge me, but I just wanted the supporters and people to see different aspects of the job. Now they may laugh about it because what was put on was what was said.
It was riveting entertainment.
But I mean, at the end of
it really was.
For the people who watch it, it was really.
But not for you.
For me. but the interesting thing what you said about the fourth official in that game, he knew, and he actually said to me, "I know, Mr. Taylor, I know, but sit down." And he knew that referee had got it wrong in that particular thing, and I respected him for doing that. But there's very few times. That was one of the times I felt my team was being cheated. So I've been there in that sense. Now, was we being cheated, or was it just him having a bad day? So I'm just as guilty as other people. But I was so annoyed because I felt that we'd been cheated, particularly when the free kick went the other head.
Yeah.
And it was disallowed to start with, and Paulins found himself getting. But he hadn't done that to the Dutch players at all.
No. Do you still feel that way when you look back at it? That you were cheated? Or?
Oh, I feel that he was out, and it was the fact that he hasn't refereed. He never refereed a top international game means that I think there were other people who looked at his performance and said that's not good enough. And the pressure, there was a lot of pressure on it. And the interesting thing is when we came off after the game, there was a reporter. He's now passed away, but I'm not going to mention his name in preference to his family as well. But all of a sudden we had to go past the referee's room and then go into our dressing room. And as I went past this door, the referee's room door was barged open by this journalist, the English journalist, and he was saying, "You effing cheat, you effing cheat." He was calling that to the referee. The next day, his newspaper blamed me. and we used to have a tremendous laugh about it later on, the journalist and myself.
Yeah.
But it showed me how the success of the English team, got into everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, what he was doing, what the journalist was doing, was wrong. But somehow he'd barged his way through. He'd got through, and he'd seen that himself. And I have to say that I thought we had been cheated in that particular game. Yes.
But in the end, if there's somebody to blame, it was always the England manager.
Well, in that case, yeah. I mean, it was always
and you took the blame.
Well, you have to do. You're responsible for results.
But you came up with a catchphrase that must have earned you a few bob since then.
Do I not like that?
Indeed.
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's
I mean,
interesting.
you played it to your advantage. With every cloud, there's a silver lining.
I get asked. I have to say that. I'm very pleased that you've sort of recognised that. Or perhaps I'm not. I might not get offered it, but it's amazing because I never went round doing it. But people saw as a World Cup every 4 years, as a World Cup comes up, it goes back a bit. And what about getting Graham Taylor?
I saw you before this World Cup in an advert.
Yeah, cider. It's about cider.
Do you drink cider, by the way?
Well, I do actually, but it was very interesting, the cider that we did and the advert that we did, because I'm in the advert. I'm watching a game of football. I'm watching England play, and I'm sat on the chair, and I have the glass of cider with me, which is obviously named and what have you, and I'm hitting the side of the chair to actually tell them to shoot, and of course the side of the chair releases the chair so that I come back, and the cider comes all over me. Now just imagine if you don't get that right in say 2 goes, which I did, and you have 10 goes, just imagine 10 pints of cider. And so for the second go, the first time I did it, I had some cider over, and they said, "I think we'll do it again. Can you try and get a little bit more action?" So you listen to them all. I'm thinking, I've got to get this right. I've got to get this right. I don't want to be sat here in half an hour's time with cider all over.
And all the changes you were going to have to be there for about a fortnight doing that.
Yeah. So it was quite fun.
Fun.
But you're quite right in what you say. But I don't sort of go out and say, "Oh, by the way, it's it's World Cup year. It's about time I did another advert." They just come to me. Yeah. So fair enough.
So it's, do I like that?
Yeah, do I like that? Yeah.
But you like referees as a breed, or at least you have sympathy for them, which is a major thing.
Oh, definitely.
Have they improved over the years? They've changed in personality over the years from what you've said.
Well,
in fact, you were telling me before we even started quite an amusing story about your early days as a manager.
Yeah, I think it was, just remind me again because I forget names again.
I think you were managing, as a very young manager, you were a manager at 28 at Lincoln City, and one of your players made a mistake.
Yeah, that's right. So we play in Chesterfield, we go 2-0 up, and one of my centre-backs immediately makes a bit of a mistake, and it's 2-1.
You can say cock up, it's all right,
it's
okay with that.
It's a 2-1.
Yeah.
So I'm suddenly find myself on the pitch, looking at my centre forward. Everybody's walking up ready for the kick-off. really tell him, not I tell him what I think about him and what it is and what is he been doing, what is this all about. And suddenly I've gone like that and I've realised I'm on the pitch, I'm in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah.
And
did you not
where
realise
should it be?
that you shouldn't?
It had just got to me because at that time there was no game because everybody was walking up for the kick-off, you see.
Yeah.
So I must have thought, I've got time to get on there, give him a good rollicking and get back.
Yeah.
Well, of course. I did it, and then I thought to myself, you have been so out of order, Taylor. You have been so out. So I fined myself £20 and had to let it be known publicly that that's what I'd done. And £20 in those days, I was the manager of Lincoln City at the time, so we're going back many years, was a lot of money. So I did do that, and
the referee kind of let you off there.
Well,
I think
did.
now it would have incurred a report to the FA.
Oh yeah, it'd been all, yeah. So there was none of that went on. And the other thing that I have found, and I mean I can understand because of all the money that's involved in the game itself, it brings to it a seriousness at times that never used to be there. You know what I mean? You could have a laugh and a joke, and you had as I say, the linesmen. The linesmen were great people, you know, to have a joke with. Obviously, the referee being in the middle of the pitch now and again. But well, I say now and again.
There's something about Gordon Hill as well. You had an exchange with him.
Gordon Hill, as you know, was a well-known referee. Controversial at times, there's no doubt about it. And I was with Grimsby Town, and I was in the reserve team. I think it might have been called the North Regional League at that time.
North Midlands League, I think it was.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And that's where Gordon was refereeing. He's starting off his career. And I remember he sort of judged that I'd committed a foul. And of course I just, looked at him, you ought, something like that. And then, hey, Graham I couldn't believe it. I'm in my first year, I'm only a young boy, first year as a pro, and he knows my first name. Come here. And so I've come up to him. And he said, look, I referee this game, and you play it. He said, now I know I've got to improve in certain things, but I'll tell you what, you have to improve probably 50 times as much as me. Yeah. And the way that you are playing at the moment, I'm not so certain you're going to make the grade. And I looked at him, it was words to that effect, and I looked at him, and I just started laughing because I thought and from that moment on, we got on very well because, he didn't actually get hold of me, he didn't sort of send me off because he did, but he actually created a funny situation from the incident, and you wouldn't see that now.
You wouldn't.
You didn't see it.
But could there be, another argument is, could there be that kind of an exchange in the era of close-ups and lip readers and people will almost be able to say what the conversation was?
That's absolutely right, and that's part of the problem.
Which inhibits referees perhaps.
You see particularly managers and their coaches on the side talking, so that the camera can't actually see, and they don't have it. And it's such a shame. I mean, you can't blame referees and football people that we're all involved in it, the television particularly so, which, as you know, I have strong views about, because, yes, they're great, we see the games on television, we see all of this, and yet we never see the incident from the referee's point of view, and yet we see it from the television, the camera's point of view.
But there are
and
times
I'm not so certain that that's fair to the referee.
But there are times, Graham, that you're there involved in live commentary on Radio 5 Live, and there's a howler, an apparent howler from the referee, and your co-commentator will certainly call it that way on occasions, whoever that may be, and you're then invited to join in the criticism, and you somehow hold yourself a little bit back there at that point.
Because I will do, because I don't want to have a sort of row with any co-commentators, the lead commentators, because that's not my job, the commentator. But on the other hand, I don't go in for hammering referees. If a referee's made a mistake, in my view, I will say I think he's made a mistake there. I think he's made a mistake. I don't say he's made a mistake that I'm right. And I have an advantage at that time, even though I'm on the radio, of seeing television cameras and having them in front of us. But that's not the view that he has.
No.
And that's what really irritates me when we all show all of these views, particularly on the television, they show 6 or 7 different views of it all. So it's obvious the referee got this wrong. But they can't show it from the referee's viewpoint. And like I've said earlier, are we going to end up with a little camera on top of the referee's head so that he will be able to show the referee's viewpoint? I don't know.
How much control do we give over to technology? Because football's been very reluctant to introduce it, and it was really overdue when the goal line came in. Everybody's behind that. Yeah. But there is certainly a difference of opinion as to how far we take this technology. How far would you take it?
Well, a lot of people would say with all of the money now in the game, we have to get everything right. Do you know what I mean? And if there is some things that we can improve on and we are not improving on it, then we're wrong. We should be improving on all of this. And the only thing that I do say, like I'm mentioning it before, is that we still can't see the referee, what the referee is actually seeing. No. So we have to go on. So is it something that I particularly think will happen? I think it might happen. To
what extent, though?
But I'm saying to myself, Graham, but do you really want it to happen? And I don't. Do you know what I mean? I can understand that this is the only way we'll see the referee's viewpoint. Yeah. And so if he comes onto the camera, the little camera, he joins in, we can then see what he's actually been looking at himself. And there's something about me saying, well, it takes away all the arguments, and it takes away all the, in the pub afterwards when everybody's having a drink. And
you don't want to take away the momentum and the pace of the occasion either, do you, by stopping for too long?
Yeah, no.
Really?
It's got to be done.
What do you think of the idea, certainly that on this website Keith Hackett has championed and is pushing quite hard for, of a video referee in the stand who avails himself of the TV technology that is to everybody's benefit apart from the man who really needs it in the middle, and quietly is having a discourse with the referee on occasions and putting him right.
Yeah, providing it doesn't get to a situation where that discourse is sharp, quick, to the point, because what the referee doesn't want is a voice in his ear
overruling
it all of the time, and also making sure that it doesn't disturb him where then he's looking for other things and he's losing his control of the game. But I think I can see that's a far better idea for me than to have one stuck on the referee's head.
Or to have appeals from managers, which is Sepp Blatter's idea. So you don't rate that one? No.
I'm not. I think once again, I'm not going to say that the manager will win all of the time, but I just think that we've got to respect the referee's position here, and that we've got to recognise somebody is in charge of that game, and by being in charge he will get some things wrong. It's always been the case, and he will get some things wrong, but how, what are we going to do about it then? And is the next thing, if you get 2 things wrong in 2 successive games, you're out. You know what I mean? Are we going down that line? I'm a bit old school in this. I'm not, I like to think it would be so good to have referees who really enjoy the game, feel they can say things to players that makes them laugh, do you know what I mean? Have a bit of a crack with them.
Would you like to see them do interviews as well? Because it's so rare.
Well, you see, I suggested that once, and got down. When I suggested it to certain people who I'm not going to name because I never got the job that I think I would have been quite good at. But there you are.
I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah, well, never mind.
Okay.
Never mind. It's a job that's just been filled. It was filled about start of this season, end of last season, something like that. So
okay.
Can't remember the title of it.
Technical director.
Something like that.
Referee's technical director.
It was something like that.
It was filled by Howard Webb.
Yeah. No, it's not that one. It wasn't. Somebody else took it. I forget the chap's name. Can't.
Within the referees' organisation.
It was through, but it was. I had an interview with representatives of the FA, the Referees Association, and one other person. I forget who it was. Because I didn't get the job, I haven't really bothered much about it. But I thought I could do the job. I thought I would have been of some help to have.
This is an advisory person within the game for referees.
Saying whatever it was. You can see by how I'm stumbling through this that, I didn't get the job, so I forgot all about it really in many respects. But I just thought that probably I could have handled. But I suggested at the time what you just suggested to me, and it didn't go down very well. That the referee probably there'll come a time when the referee will be asked to do interviews, and providing those interviews they're only of a certain time and it's understood. That's what that didn't go down very well. I think that probably cost me my job. Not cost me my job because I wasn't
the job that you were applying for.
Yeah, but I was of the view. You see, when you've got a referee who's at the heart of so many things and so many decisions and something, and he's not allowed to come in and speak about these things and what have you, then in fact, I'm not so certain that helps him really. You know. Now, some will say the last thing that we want is to be in front of a television camera, having to be interviewed. You know, we have to make an interview. I think some referees at certain times would like to say things, you know, but I think I got the feeling from the committee that was interviewing me that wasn't anything that they really thought was a good idea at all. You know, they thought it would lead elsewhere.
Okay. Maybe that will change one day, because it does seem strange that this is a game in which they are participants and they're the only ones that aren't publicly.
Yeah. Well, this is the point I was making. I think it will come much more, and I would have thought it might have. If you have the referees coming in and explaining and probably saying, I got that wrong there, I missed that, do you know what I mean? And being open about that, then I just felt that, you know, the interest in the referee and people appreciating the referee's job and what he had to do would be better.
Yeah.
And as you're quite right, you say, and I made the point, he's the one person who plays such an important part in the game that nobody interviews.
It does seem a disparity there. And also a disparity that those very few referees who occasionally have been prepared, sometimes in an unauthorised way, to comment after games, have then been chided for wanting to see themselves on TV, and you know, and they get that accusation.
Yeah. Oh no, you get.
Which means they can't win.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, they can't. And this is why I'm on their side. You know, people might say, well, it's better than it used to be. I'm not so certain it is, but having said that, how it used to be, you never saw the referee on television, you know what I mean? You know? But there seemed to be a bit more of an acceptance in those days that he was the referee, he was in charge of decision making, he would get some things wrong. But the sort of era that we were living in at that time wasn't inclined to sort of berate the referee or anything, but now you get it, it's coming from all over, it can come from anywhere at all. I feel very sympathetic towards referees, because I do not believe that they go out there to deliberately have a bad game themselves. I just don't believe it.
And finally, the level of competence of referees, has that improved in the 50 odd years that you've been involved in football?
Fitness, definitely. The fitness levels help them. The fitness levels improves. I mean, it's very interesting when I watch a game of football, live game of football. I'll keep my eyes on the referee. You know, one eye watching him. Where is he choosing to go? Where he thinks he might get? Is he reading the game? Because he's been involved in so much games before that if he sees, you know, a certain player with a ball, he'll have a reasonable idea of where that ball is going to go. So he'll get that wrong now and again, of course, so he skips out the way of the ball, you know, which always makes me smile a little bit. Like, I sometimes wonder if the players do it on purpose, trying to hit him. You know what I mean? But now, I think we could all make the referee's job, I'm not going to say easier, meaning it makes it sloppy. We don't want that. But I think we should be all a lot more on his side. And the days, I'm not certain they'll ever come back, but the days when you could have a good laugh with the referee and you could pass a little bit of banter between, I like those days. It wasn't just the referee and the manager, it was players as well that got involved. And of course I was at the time, during my time, from sort of just having linesmen and referees who came in when they came then to see you in your dressing room, do you know what I mean? Yeah. They would inspect all of things. I don't know, I suppose that still goes on now. I've been out of the game quite a lot really, looking at it, but I'm on the outside looking in now. Yeah. So I don't know exactly what does go on, but there used to be a bit of banter, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Before the game.
It's a common denominator of these interviews is that so many people are actually saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So many people can't be wrong, I suppose.
Well, I hope not,
You're not.
because it would be so much better, I think, you know. We don't want to be castigating the referee all the time. Of course he'll make mistakes, and of course, as I go back to the situation with the England-Holland thing, they can be very costly. There's no doubt about that, but, you know, generally speaking, as I said at the beginning, I'm a referee's man.
Graham, many thanks. We can have a bit of banter here, and it's great to have a conversation that could have gone all day,
Yeah.
probably all night.
Yeah,
Many thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Joe.
Graham.
Thanks
Thank you.